Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so today we're going to do another trade review, and today we're going to do Hawkworld, written and illustrated by Timothy Truman. Inks are by Enrique Alcantara, and the colors are by Sam Parsons. Okay, so I'm mostly going to do this one from the notes I have here. So, originally this story saw print as a three-issue prestige format, same format that Dark Knight Returns and Green Arrow Longbow Hunters were released. Thicker paper, higher production values, more sophisticated colors, and supposedly a more sophisticated story content. Basically, it's a reinterpretation of the Silver Age Hawkman. Golden Age Hawkman was Carter Hall, an archaeologist who fought crime with ancient weapons. Silver Age Hawkman was Qatar Hall, who was a policeman from the planet Danagar, who fought crime using ancient Earth weapons. The Golden Age Hawkman, I think, was also supposed to be a reincarnation of an Egyptian prince. This story appears after Crisis of Infinite Earths, which was DC Comics' 12 issue story that cleaned up the continuity and revamped some of their major characters: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, etc. DC had clear plans in mind for most of those characters, but for a Hawkman, perhaps not so much. The story feels like it was written out of continuity, or else it was taking place in the past. The problem is that DC editors decided that Hawkworld should take place in a present, which contradicted the concurrent main universe stories that featured Silver Age Hawkman. The solution to no one's satisfaction was to suggest that the Justice League stories and solo stories that featured the established Kato Hall Silver Age Hawkman were actually either Golden Age Hawkman or another Hawkman who was really a spy. So getting to the point, uh, I guess basically what they had decided was the old stories, Justice League of America stories that had Hawkman in them, were um, were really Carter Hall, the Golden Age Hawkman, and that the solo stories, I think this is the way it works, was actually a spy who said he was Katar Hall, but he was really a sleeper agent or something crazy like that. So anyway, getting back to the story. Tim Truman is the writer and artist. He's probably best known for doing this story, along with Scout for Eclipse Comics, and before that, Grimjack for First Comics. He also wrote and illustrated a couple of Jonah Hex stories for DC, Two Gun Mojo, Writers of the Worm. Writers of the Worm is interesting because two real life blues rock musicians, that's Johnny Edgar Winter, threatened to sue DC over Jonah Hex Riders of the Worm. I guess basically what had happened was Timothy Truman included two characters named Johnny and Edgar Autumn, who were a couple of these albino brothers, and I haven't read the story, so I don't know exactly the take on it, but it seemed like there were these kind of creepy guys walking around being creepy or whatever. And like I said, the real life musicians didn't take too kindly about that. I'm vaguely aware that somewhere in Scout, I think he meaning Timothy Truman, included a character loosely based on Carlos Santana, and I guess Santana, didn't mind. But for what it's worth, in real life, Timothy Truman is also a musician himself. So I think he really included these characters, and he meant them to be kind of a tribute, kind of an homage. I don't think he really meant anything bad. But like I said, Johnny Edgar Winter, they were too cool with their depictions in that story. All right, so getting to the plot of today's story, the plot involves Kater Hall. He's the son of an aristocrat who serves in the Thanagarian military. Thanagar is a brutal empire that has conquered many worlds. As Katar carries out his duties, he begins to doubt the morality of the Thanagarian cause and, in fact, openly questions the status quo. He gets set up by one of his commanders and gets banished from the empire. Slowly, Hall must discover a higher purpose and eventually gain his revenge. Some of the themes touch on colonialism, racism, drug use, and classism. Carter sees how the dominant culture to which he belongs no longer produces great things and plunders the resources of others. People no longer believe in spiritual matters and numb themselves with drugs. Qatar learns that war is not a glorious adventure but dirty and cruel. Majority of the Thanagarians are drawn to look white. There's two minor characters who have Native American or maybe Aboriginal features, but the majority of uh, the characters who are stand-ins for minorities or indigenous people are drawn as aliens. And the way it works, it's not hard to draw parallels between them and the people of the various South Asian, North American, or South American countries. The upper class are either openly hostile to their alien servants or discard the people to underserved urban poverty areas. Having said that, we mostly just see the Thanagorian elites and then the faceless underclass. It might have added a level of complexity if we're showing what life was like for ordinary Thanagarians or offer the perspective of more of the conquered people. We kind of get that. It's sort of through the view of a couple of characters who almost serve as like wise shaman stereotypes that we see a lot in movies. I wrote here, Hall is not quite the white savior trope. He comes maybe halfway, but I don't think they go as far as you're used to seeing, like I said, in a lot of movies, novels, and certain genre fiction and things like that. Katar as a person is well written and sensitive and an empathetic hero. There's a surprising amount of male crying in this comic, although understandable considering the events that take place. Unfortunately, um, he's the only one that's written as a three-dimensional character. Most of the supporting cast seems to exist to represent certain ideas or function as plot devices. Shiera, who in other comics has been Hawkman's love interest or wife or sidekick, while important to the plot, is still kind of written thin. She's, however, the only female character of any substance. The other depictions of women in the story are a sick underclass alien woman that Qatar Hall saves, and um, uh, some loose alien women who might be hookers that the bad guy frequents with. Other major characters include Hall's father, his commanding officer who becomes the ultimate villain of the piece, and a gruff veteran who has to show Hall the ropes. The art is solid but not flashy. Truman's art is Kubert inspired, but Tim is very much his own man. He alternates between fine and heavy lines, sometimes using feathery cross hatching, other times using solid blacks, all to good effect. Good shading that gives figures and objects weight, as well as adding depth to settings. The layouts and panel compositions are varied but don't call attention to themselves. Clear understanding between the panels, both action to action and scene to scene. The inking is by Enrique Alcantina, and the coloring is by Sam Parsons. A lot of colors are dark and muted, um, but in a way that fits the dark mood of the story, rather than making the visuals hard to see. Uh, okay, so just to show you some of the artwork and some of the things I was talking about before. So let's see here. Let's start here. Like these two guys here. I guess this guy's an alien, but he looks like he could have been an Aboriginal looking dude. And here's his partner here. So yeah, again, I'm not sure if they're supposed to look like they're Aborigines or if they're supposed to look more alien or whatever. Because we get the scene where the hero is in some isolated, natural area, either woods or here he's kind of like in this deserted island, but you've seen that scene a lot in movies and TV shows and cartoons where he's got to go out and get in touch with himself and he's going to be a warrior and he's got to learn martial arts. um, here's some interesting layouts here. Like I said, they're not super flashy, but they are, solid, real interesting easy to follow storytelling. And it really, he switches it up a lot. He, being Timothy Truman, switches up the panel layouts every couple of pages. But the layouts don't really call attention to themselves, but they're really well done. Here's Carter Hall coming home after a day on the front lines. He's just seen so much bad stuff. And here he is. He's got to take some pills to deal with it all. This is an interesting scene here. In the beginning, the Hawkmen are going to lower in here, and they're in like pretty much a helicopter. Kind of reminds me of something you would have seen out of like a Vietnam movie at the time. The original miniseries was released in '88, I think, and Vietnam movies were the thing back then. Uh, Not just Rambo, but Rambo, Platoon. I think there's one about Hamburger Hill. Uh, what was that other thing? Geez, I can't remember that Michael J. Fox, Brian De Palma one was right now. I'll remember as soon as I finish shooting this. But Vietnam movies were really big during the time. I think after this series was done, here's Carter Hall with some of the aristocrats this year. But I think the first trade was in '91. This one in my hand. Oh, here's an interesting scene here. Here's Sierra mistreating one of the servants. The guy accidentally knocks a drink over. She yells at him, humiliates him, and then sticks her heel in his neck. Okay. Now, I was saying the thing again. Most of these people are obviously supposed to be, like I said, underclass people, poor people, or whatever. And most of them are drawn to look like this. Everybody's either an alien or creature or something. There aren't too many humans who are actually depicted as part of the underclass, and that might have been a mistake. There's some more examples of the art here. Okay, this is his hall, clearly trying to regain some of that spirituality that he feels that the people have lost. And I'll show you this scene here without giving too much away about what's about to happen next. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, about the format. So yeah, then it was released in trade. 90, 91. No, 91 it has to be, because like I said, there's a foreword by Mike Gold, who was the editor from 91. And then and this one here in my hand is obviously, it's not obvious, but it's a reissue. It's from 2014. And here's some ads for the new 52. But back to Hawkman as a character. Uh, after the original miniseries was a hit, they did an ongoing series. But I think, and it was kind of like dark and gritty and stuff like that. And I think what happened was, in order to kind of figure out all the continuity, mishaps and things like that, DC did another series called 0 Hour, and in 0 Hour, they merged all the different Hawkmen and said all those Hawkmen were the exact same person. So you got Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age, all become a Hawk god. Okay, or whatever. And then DC immediately took Hawkman off the table and actually refused to let anybody use the character for several years. Most famously, Grant Morrison wanted to use him in his first run on Justice League or JLA, and DC editors told him no, and so he ended up creating the character of Azrael. So that's that. All right, and and then so I guess ultimately they kind of, I'm not sure if it was Jeff Johns in JSA. They kind of like figured out the whole thing that Hawkman has in fact is this one person who keeps being reincarnated. Him and Shiera keep being reincarnated across time and space. So he's Egyptian prince, then he's Carter Hall, then he's Qatar Hall, then he's Grim and Gritty Hawk guy, then he's the guy who's Hawkman right now, and that's that. Okay, so ultimately, Hawkman is a tightly plotted, well drawn. It's tightly plotted and well drawn. While the character work could have been better, it's full of interesting ideas that touch on social political issues that transcend genre and still affect us even 30 years later. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching. You guys have a great day.